In the summer of 1959, a small Canadian town was shaken by a crime so brutal, it remains one of the darkest mysteries in Alberta's history. A father, a stepmother, and 5 innocent children were slaughtered in their own home. Their bodies were hidden in a garage pit, and their family name was stained forever. At the center of it all stood one man, Robert Raymond Cook, a 23-year-old ex-convict who would go down in history as the last person executed by hanging in Alberta. But here's the question. Was Robert Cook truly guilty of this horrific mass murder? Or was he wrongfully condemned? On June 28, 1959, police entered the Cook family home in Stettler, Alberta. What they discovered was horrifying. Raymond Cook, age 53, his wife Daisy, 37, and 5 young children, Gerald, Patrick, Christopher, Kathy, and little Linda May, were all dead. Raymond and Daisy had been shot with a shotgun. The children's fate was even more gruesome. They had been bludgeoned beyond recognition with the butt of the same gun. All were found in pajamas, suggesting they were killed while asleep. Their bodies were dumped in the grease pit of the garage, covered with tires and cardboard. It was a scene of unimaginable violence. Just days later, suspicion fell on Robert Raymond Cook, Raymond's son from a previous marriage. Robert had only recently been released from prison. Soon after, he traded in his father's station wagon for a flashy convertible, claiming his father had told him to do it. But few believed that story. When arrested, Robert was found carrying a suitcase packed with family documents, insurance papers, school report cards, children's pajamas, and even photo albums. Why would he take these specific belongings if his family was alive and well? To many, it seemed obvious. Robert had killed them and was trying to cover his tracks. The Crown painted Robert as a manipulative liar. His alibis constantly shifted depending on what police confronted him with. He told one story, then another, each crumbling under scrutiny. Prosecutors argued Robert's motive was clear. He had just been released from prison and wanted his father to move with him to British Columbia. His father refused, preferring his new wife and young children. Robert, in a fit of rage, allegedly snapped and wiped out his entire family. Adding to suspicion, Robert escaped from a psychiatric hospital while awaiting trial. For 4 days he was on the run, sparking mass panic across Alberta. Citizens armed themselves, locked their homes, and police launched one of the largest manhunts in the province's history. To many, this confirmed his guilt. Why would an innocent man run? But not everyone believed Robert was guilty. David McNaughton, one of Robert's own defense lawyers in 1959, later a respected judge, openly admitted decades afterward that he could never have convicted Cook if he had been the judge. Why? Because so much of the evidence was circumstantial. There was no blood on Robert's clothes, no cuts or bruises on his hands, and no proof he ever owned or used a shotgun. The weapon found at the crime scene didn't belong to him or to anyone in the Cook household. And then, there was the mysterious blood-stained shirt found at the house, with the name Ross written on it. Who did it belong to? Could it have pointed to someone else entirely? To Judge McNaughton, the case left reasonable doubt. Despite these uncertainties, 2 separate juries found Robert guilty of his father's murder. He was never formally charged with the murders of his stepmother or the children, yet public opinion assumed he had slaughtered them all. On November 15, 1960, at the age of just 23, Robert Raymond Cook was executed by hanging at Fort Saskatchewan Provincial Jail. He went to the gallows insisting he was innocent. In his final days, he even wrote a haunting poem. So I ask you, is it strange that I'm sentenced to the noose while my family's killer is on the loose? More than 6 decades later, the truth remains clouded in doubt. Was Robert Cook a ruthless murderer who slaughtered his own family in cold blood? Or was he a troubled young man, already branded by his criminal past, who became the perfect scapegoat for a town desperate for justice? One thing is certain: his execution closed the case in the eyes of the law, but not in the minds of history.